Hey guys, welcome back to George's workshop. Today I'm going to be running you through kind of where the XJR project's at, where I need it to get to quite quickly, and the things that are currently holding me up, some of the companies that are messing me around, some of the companies that have been brilliant. So I'll get stuck into it. As you may or may not know, this XJR is in pretty good condition already. It's done minimal miles really, at under 60,000. So some of the bits I've started to strip off were the bumper, which you can see here, with my lovely private plate. And what had happened on the bumper was they've made these bumper brackets out of fairly sort of cheap plasticky fiberglass looking brackets. So it seems as soon as there's a knock left or right, for safety measures I guess, because it's quite a bulky and quite a low and heavy car, they just snap. So if you're going to go through sort of more official outlets, David Manners and Jaguar himself, if they've got new old stock, then these are about £80 plus VAT per piece, if I'm not mistaken. And I picked this up from a forum for £32, and this one was £38 on eBay, I believe. So about the same price as a new one from somewhere else, and these are both in perfect condition, so they're good to use. They'll be going on. Something else will be these lovely back box deletes from Simply Performance, Harry & Co. up there in Simply Performance. Brilliant guys, as you may be able to see the XJS there. That's had a complete sports exhaust on it, including sports cats. I thought it was a bit overkill when I did that, so I've just opted to do the back box delete on the XJR because it's not really designed to be a loud, rip-roaring race car. I just wanted a little bit more of a soft grumble with it, and these also look gorgeous. They weren't breaking the bank either, so these came in at £198 delivered. And a good bit of information, which took me a little while to find on forums, is that the tips off of an XJR 308 will fit these, but the standard X308 will not fit these. There's a slightly different bore on the tubes, okay? So again, if you have an XJR, don't spend the extra £150, £170, whatever it might be, on the tips. Take yours off to your current car, give them a good polish up, clean up, stick them on the new ones, and you'll save yourself a bit of money. Next up is the air intake. So I looked far and wide really for something that would just snazz up the engine bay a little bit. I know some of the older generation, especially amongst the purists, do not want to see red superchargers and whatnot in there. I do. I can't wait to get this painted. And alongside that, I was looking high and low for a nicer looking air intake than that. Apparently these are not very efficient either. They don't really give the engine exactly what it requires. I'm sure they do the job. They've done the job for many years. They'll continue to do the job for many years. But for me personally, I found a company called Mina Galleries. I did think they were a bit expensive. It's coming around £180. But it's a beautiful 3-inch stainless steel with the R performance on it, and that will cut out all these silly little bends straight over the top, and it will give a nice aesthetic to the engine bay. Obviously at the minute I've got the whole filter out, I've got the airflow meter out as well. Apparently a good and quite simple fix for these to get a few extra horsepower out of them without playing too much is to upgrade the airflow meter, to I believe it's a Bosch one. I need to double check that, but I believe it's a Bosch or something along those lines. That's definitely for later in the project. For now, I'm going to be using a normal filter though, putting it back in there. I'm not going to be doing any of this silly K&F filter. We're not working on a Ford ST or anything like that. So we're not boy racers here. We are sometimes, but we're not. So next up, I'm going to be showing you the current condition of the brakes and explaining what's happening with those. So as you can see, I've got the calipers and the shoes off, and these have been sent off. I found a company on eBay for these. It was £275. You send off yours, they send you back a reconditioned and painted in any colour you wanted. Again, in my yobbish youthfulness, I've gone for red, which is what I will also be painting this supercharged part here. You can see I've already cleaned one side off. The other side's still got the original coating on it, whatever that kind of coating is. So yeah, I've got all 4 calipers off, and the wheels are in pretty good nick, and I don't mind these wheels, so I'm probably going to stick with these, and I'm somewhere between taking these to my friend next door and getting them done professionally, and trying out some of the more sort of home bodgy jobs on it. I'm not going to call it a bodge job because these really don't need a great deal of work. They're all similar condition. There's very minimal damage on them. So a good clean, a little bit of a sand, maybe a respray on the front. I did see a trick, and you can leave a comment to tell me if it's a good trick or not, but I saw a trick about putting a pack of playing cards around the outside facing outwards. I'm sure there's loads of things that we could essentially put around the outside. But again, I'm not going to mess around with them too much. I've got 4 good tyres there. They're not a expensive brand tyre, but you can see I've got plenty of tread on those. So, as always, keeping all the nuts and bolts in the same place. Give you a little walk around. These have all come off. They're not in bad nick. These are going to be getting replaced, all the rear shock absorbers, but the springs are fine apparently. So I'm going to have rear shocks and new bushes on those. That's the exhaust that's going to be coming off. And then when the car goes into Ian Davis, sorry, he's going to be looking after all this paintwork for me. So as you can see here, I've got this horrible bit of rust, but he had a good feel around the whole arch, and it's nice and solid all the way around. And based on some information he gave me on the XJ40 before, I thought he was going to tell me I needed new wings. So I've already been looking for new wings, but he said no, I don't need a new wing. He can take a piece of metal, patch that in and get that painted for me. On top of that, obviously we've got the roof in a pretty dire condition, and there's some general little bits of like lacquer peel over the car. It's actually been a while since I've looked at those, but you can see them along there and whatnot. So the total price for that, again, very reasonable, £600. He's going to be doing not a full respray, but we kind of agreed that it would be 95% plus in terms of what people would even notice on the car. And for me, a 3.5 grand respray or spending £600 and having it pretty much 95% on a 25 plus year old car, I'm happy with that. So when it came to ordering parts for this car, I did the usual bouncing websites off of each other, making a few phone calls to people I already know and so on and so forth. And I ended up going with a website called Online Car Parts. How generic, I know. Now it said it was a standard 3 to 5 working day turnaround for delivery. It was a .co.uk website, so how was I to know without further investigation that the parts are shipped from all over their warehouses across Europe to Germany, then to here, and there's been problems at the ports, and as of tomorrow it'll be 3 weeks I'm still waiting for my parts. I did save £90 and I'm not in a rush to get the parts for this car, but this was a week that I wanted to start doing work to the car, so here I am telling you about the work I want to do to the car and not doing the work to the car. I guess that just adds to the series, which is good in the eventual series. But the parts I've ordered are along the lines of all the serviceable parts. You know, fuel filter, air filter, oil filter, all along the line of Bosch and so on. I've also got new pads and discs. I've gone for Brembo discs and Bosch pads. I think there was about £30 difference between the Bosch pads and the Brembo pads, and quite frankly they do the same thing and they fit the same fitment, so that was a no-brainer for me there. And then in terms of other parts I've ordered from more reputable companies, who I mentioned before, David Manners, Simply Performance and so on. I've got a new supercharger drive pulley. I've got a new drive belt coming from them. I've got left side and right hand side cam cover gaskets. Apparently they go on these and they start to seep a bit of oil, so they need to be replaced. And the advice I've been given on that as well by a very reputable technician from Jaguar is that unless you get official original equipment, then they just leak. The aftermarket stuff is just not worth it whatsoever. And I've also got a new aerial mast for the back because that just doesn't go up and down properly. And then there's a very small issue to fix with some sticky sticky locks on the doors. But other than that, altogether, David Manners put me back about £380. Online car parts was around £480. The bumper brackets were £80. The exhaust was just under £200. The Mina Galleries air intake that I discussed earlier was just under £200. I believe when I looked at the bank balance after, all the parts are coming in around £1,200-ish, which I thought was quite reasonable. Then we add on the Ian Davis specialist, not far from me. I'm in Mr Matic here in South Wales, so it's not far from me here. I'm not Mr Matic, by the way, in case anyone from Mr Matic is watching this. I'm next door to Mr Matic, I'm George's workshop. But yeah, £600 for the paint to be corrected and put back to normal, the patchwork on the arch to be done, on the wing to be done, and he's also going to be undersealing the car. Well, before that, he's going to be giving it a good blast over, getting any sort of surface rust and spots off of the car. Then he's going to be undersealing it, then he's going to be painting the car. And then the final part of the jigsaw, really, if I really feel like it, which I probably will because I am a bit of a perfectionist, is I've spoken to a gentleman who does seat repairs. I've spoken to a few gentlemen actually who do seat repairs, and the reality is that because they're perforated and they're slightly ripped, some people don't want to touch it because of the perforations in it. And another gentleman said he could do it, but it was £500 for the pair. I asked him if he could do it for £375, being the way I am. He said he'd meet me at £430. I'll be honest, I'm yet to get back to him, but I'm probably going to take that up. If he can meet me at £430, then I think that's a reasonable price to have two mint front seats. I have been looking far and wide to replace the seats as a whole. I've seen some that don't have the same functions as mine in the colour, and then I've seen ones that are cream with the same function as mine, but mine are grey. So it's always a bit of swings and roundabouts. Another little bit of information on sort of why I'm doing this car and why I'm not doing this car is that the parts for this are just becoming more and more difficult to find. I need a new steering rack for this. I'd love an XJR body kit for this. And those things do come up, and I've seen those things come up on forums, on eBay, on different websites over the last couple, 2-3 years. But they're just few and far between, whereas other than the engine and a couple of bits to do with the supercharger and so on, so basically the engine-based stuff, this car is really easily interchangeable with all the standard X308 stuff in terms of the interior, the headliner, the body panels, because it's a sheep in wolf in sheep's clothing.